Hello, welcome to this episode of Riding Tandem. I'm Vivian Kvam, your host, and always here to help encourage and inspire you within your own business. And today I have Chloe on this episode, and you are going to love her. She is a young entrepreneur who has always been passionate about art. She's been crafting ever since she could hold a crayon, is what she says, or manage a pair of scissors. And she owns Chloe's Crafts, which is kind of the result of an afternoon, a family vacation, collecting pebbles with her family on the shores of Lake Michigan. And that was the beginning of her story. I'm excited for you to hear how that unfolds. What she ended up doing is creating just a passion and a vision for being able to share beautiful artwork through the collection of pebbles. And I hope you will watch this a bit on YouTube as well, because she shows some of her artwork in this episode. Chloe made her first piece of pebble art when she was 10 years old. And shortly afterwards, she started her own business and has been making pebble art ever since. Chloe's now 14, and she joins me today on this episode of Riding Tandem to just talk about what that journey has been like, some of the challenges she's overcome. And I've got to say, though she is young, she is mighty. She shares some really great wisdom and inspiration that I know will just guide you in your own journey as you are either in the middle of your business or maybe you're thinking about creating a business. So I'm excited to have you join us. Let's go ahead and dive in. Well, welcome everyone to this episode of Riding Tandem. I was just talking with my guest, and this is a first for her and a first for me. So I'm very delighted to introduce Chloe Gollehon. Did I say it right?
Galahan.
Gollehon. Oh, see, we practiced right before here, and I said we don't always get it perfect. So I have Chloe today, and Chloe is a 14-year-old student and entrepreneur. And so the first student we've had on, and this is her first podcast. So it's first for everybody, which is really exciting. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. It's good. Okay. So here's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. I want to introduce Chloe because I actually own one of her amazing pieces of artwork, and you are a creative entrepreneur. Is that right? You have a creative business?
Yes.
Yes. Chloe, can you tell us a little bit about what your creative business is? What do you create?
So I create pebble art. It's I I guess I use a combination of sticks and stones, I guess.
I love
it. To create a image of usually something along the lines of like birds, or I've done all sorts of other arrangements like flowers and anything from a dragon to a pig.
I love it. And we were chatting right before we hopped on here. I actually got to meet you, Chloe, at a craft fair, at a high school craft fair. And I loved your work. You have a lot of it too. I remember there being lots of pieces of artwork, small pieces, larger pieces, and it really resonated with me. And then my friend who works for us too, Jenny, we talk about Jenny here a lot because she keeps us on track. She's like our work mom. We call her our work mom. She bought me one of your pieces of artwork. We do foster care, and she bought one with two little birdies. And then there were two little, we call them our foster kid birdies that are off on the side. And it just really spoke to me, and I love having it. So thank you for your creations.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. So Chloe, I know part of your story is you had a family trip, right? It was Lake Michigan.
Yes.
So can you take me back to that day? What were you doing, and what inspired you to make your first piece of art?
So, my first piece was it was meant to be a thank you gift because the family that we had up there, we used to go and visit them like every 2 years or so. It was an annual trip.
Cool.
So, over the years, we had collected tons of pebbles because, when you're kids, I guess I'm still a kid, but
Yeah.
you're on the beach and you're like, oh, here's a cool pebble, and then oh, here's one, and before you know it, you have a bucket full. And
Yes.
we ended up taking bucketfuls of pebbles home from this beach, and we wanted to give them a thank you gift just for letting us stay up there, because I think it was COVID year, I think, that we were going up there. And
Mm,
so, everything was kind of shut down. So there wasn't a whole ton of places to go. So we were really glad that we got to do a trip, even if it was just to go see family. And to like kind of show our appreciation, we thought it'd be cool to give them a gift. And what better way than to give them a gift made out of pebbles from their beach?
that's perfect.
So we kind of just, I guess it just kind of happened. It was just, we're like, oh, we got some pebbles. What can we do with them? And then before I know it, I have a piece of art. And then it was so well received that I was like, I want to keep doing this. So I just kept giving them as gifts until, I guess, when I turned 10, it was kind of like, I think my mom was along the lines of like, you could do this as a business. And I'm like, okay. I was like thinking it over, and I was like, you know what? How cool would it be if I could say I started a business at 10 years old? And so I was like, let's do it.
That's awesome. So, Chloe, when you, well, first I got to say, yes, I totally resonate with picking up tons of pebbles and rocks. I also, and I still do it. I'm not 10 years old or 14 years old now. I'm definitely a little older than that, but I still love to pick up cool rocks and find like the fun shapes or the colors. And when you put your hand in the water and they like change color, it's so magical. And you
Yes.
pull it out, yeah, and then they look different. And I had a whole fence in our old backyard when I was a younger person. And I had rocks the whole way down that fence because I also loved to pick up rocks and pebbles. So I can resonate there for sure. Um, so I'm curious though, you made this piece of artwork, it was super well received. This happens a lot with people when they start a business. They make something really cool and people are like, wow, this is awesome. You could make a business out of it. Has your family had businesses of their own in the past, or what inspired that idea, do you think?
Um, I not that I know of have any of my parents actually owned a small business like this. I think it was kind of the idea that I could share this with other people. Like, it doesn't just have to be me giving this to other people. I could share it with so many other people that I would not otherwise have the opportunity to share it with.
Hmm,
So,
that's neat. I think that's really cool because that can really inspire both kids maybe to start a business, but adults too. That's something we talk about a lot on the podcast here is that we all have really special gifts, and having a business is a neat way to be able to share those gifts with other people. And especially whether you have a creative gift or maybe it's more mathematical or scientific, we all have these really special gifts, and businesses do give us a neat way to be able to share those for sure. So, did you start a business right away? How did you start a business with this? You're like going door to door here? Or did you set up shop? What did it look like?
well, I remember at the time we were remodeling our house. So I started this out of the basement of our house because we had been in the basement because the rest of our house was currently like literally under construction.
Yes.
So I remember there was this like, I don't know, it was like a 2 foot by 2 foot square of counter space that I was
Perfect.
working on. And I think I
You started with paper.
I started with paper,
Okay.
and I remember doing them and then getting frames for them and framing them.
Getting the frames was also a process.
Yes. And then I remember having to look for the frames because it wasn't, especially since it was more of a 3D piece of art, I couldn't
Right.
just have them like be in a normal frame. And I didn't want my paper to be like open air because
Mm-hmm.
I have an original piece back here. And you
Perfect.
probably can't see it very well, but it does not have glass in front of it. And that was one of the things that some of my first pieces of art had.
I see.
And I remember that for selling something, I was going to want to make sure that there was this glass piece to protect the art.
Makes
So
sense.
then it wouldn't get dusty or whatever. I'm trying to
When
think.
when you were looking for that, this is so good, Chloe, because everyone goes through this with any business. It doesn't matter what the business is. You maybe start with an original idea, and I feel like it never ends. It's always a process, right?
Yes.
Yes. You start with one thing and then you're like, huh, I could make it better this way.
Yeah.
When you were looking for frames and figuring that out, some people would call that, say, product testing, right? Or where they're doing research and design. When you were doing that, did you just go to different stores? Did you talk with parents or art teachers, or what was your process like?
Um, it was a lot of going and looking for frames. I remember Michael's has always been like our store that we go to, and because they have a ton of frames. And I remember looking, and when we found the one that we wanted, it was like, yes, that's the one I want. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't really remember too much of like having to ask too much because I think we already, like me and my mom already had in mind kind of like what we were looking for. So,
That's
yeah.
perfect. Sometimes it does just take going out on the hunt, right? And
Yeah.
looking around. So with your artwork, because it is three-dimensional, because you lay your pebbles out and then you draw, it looks a bit around them, and then you have some sticks and things that you will put together. I'm not explaining this well. I hope people watch the YouTube so they can see it, right? They're like, rocks, sticks, and drawing. What is going on here? They are really gorgeous. Um, do you have to be careful now when you're selecting your pebbles so that they fit under the glass? Is that part of your process, or do you just not worry about it?
So Lake Michigan, since it's a lake, a lot of the pebbles will already end up super flat because the lake kind of acts like a natural tumbler. And when the stones are flipping over in the sand, it'll like flatten them out.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had to worry too much about getting the right sizes because a lot of them are already flat, but occasionally I will come across where I'm like, oh, this pebble would work, and then I like put it, and I have like a frame from a broken frame or whatever, like the inside that I use as a template to see if they're level, and I'll be like, oh, it's too big. But that doesn't happen very often because the lake just acts like a natural tumbler.
That makes sense for sure. Do all of your pebbles come from Lake Michigan now? Is that kind of part of your business?
Yeah, that's where we get most of them. I mean, there might be a few that were like picked up from a different lake up there, but 99% of them are from Lake Michigan.
That's really cool. So I'm just thinking about this a little bit. As your business has grown, you start off on a 2 foot by 2 foot in your basement, right? What does your business look like now, and how do people find your artwork?
So I do a lot of craft fairs now, and I do have a website as well. As for making it, I now usually take up all of the dining room table and the entire room. It's
Oh
not
my,
a 2 foot by 2 foot space anymore. It is a lot more space.
that's awesome. It sounds like your family must be fairly supportive of this if they're letting you take over entire rooms.
Yes, it's really been amazing to have them just to be my family because they've been so supportive. I mean, my siblings sometimes are like, why is your stuff always everywhere? Like, why does Chloe get an entire room to do her art in? I want an entire room to do my art in.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, they've been super supportive and it's been great.
That's
So
awesome. What do you think have been some of your challenges with starting a business?
I feel like one of the big challenges that I always have remembered was that first like show, that first event that I did.
Hmm.
Because that one was a pop-up shop. It wasn't a craft fair, so there was only like 2 or 3 other vendors there.
I
And I was
see.
kind of like tucked away in a back corner, and I remember I was like 10 at the time, and I was like waiting to sell that first one. And that waiting was the hardest part because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to sell anything. I don't know
Mm,
how people are going to react. I don't know if they're going to like it. And that was one of the hardest parts because that like anticipation and that waiting, I was like, it was that just not knowing that made it so hard.
right.
Um,
Did you end up selling a piece there?
I did, and then once I got that first piece sold, like it just started to pick up. It's always, and that's kind of been a pattern in all craft fairs. You have to get that first piece, and then
Yes.
after that, it's like usually you have 2 or 3 customers, and then it's like it just keeps going. And that's been really nice to be able to know that like once I get that first one, I will have other people come to my booth.
That first sale is so hard, Chloe. I can resonate with that. So at Tandem Works, we don't do, booths and craft fairs and things like that. That's a different kind of business. But my husband does landscape photography, and then I do watercolor art. And so I do watercolor cards and tote bag stuff. So I also have done those types of things. We've done the Iowa State Fair and then small craft things in the area and one in Pella that's like 3 days. And my word, those live events can be a little intimidating where I'm a little bit introverted. I'm actually very introverted. And so it can be hard for me sometimes to like put myself out there. And I can totally resonate with like, is somebody going to actually buy my artwork today or not? Right? Did I pack enough snacks if we didn't?
A lot of that is hard because I myself am an introvert as well. So it's
Mm,
always hard because like I know I have to engage with people and be like, hey, come look at my stuff, come see what I've
yes.
done. And that's always super hard because you're like, but what if they don't want to talk to me? What if they just want to keep walking?
Yeah. Do you have any tips that you would share now having a number of these shows under your belt for people who maybe haven't? They're kind of getting started. What have you found to be helpful for you?
Um, Bring snacks first of all.
Yes, I'm
But
with you.
also, just make sure that you're just being open to like talk to people and being open to like put yourself out there, knowing that you might get a varying result of different reactions because people may or may not like your work, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It
Mm,
just means that maybe they're not the right audience, and that's okay. It's okay to sell stuff at different places. It's okay to venture out and put yourself out there. It's how you get started. And if you never take that first step, you'll never know.
that is so true and definitely speaks to me a lot because I for sure, I don't know if you've ever had this, Chloe, but I've had people walk in with my artwork and sometimes I don't think they mean it necessarily in a unkind way, but they might say something like, "Oh, I could do that," or
Yes,
"That would be really easy to do," or "That seems really expensive." I hear that sometimes too, and that can kind of hurt a little bit.
I've heard that before, and that's always like it's you have to remind yourself that like if I were in their situation, like maybe I'd be thinking the same things. So you always have to remind yourself that like your art is still good and it's still worth other people's time. And
Hmm.
it's always important to remember that because there are going to be days that aren't going to be as good as you expect them to be. And you have to remember there's still people out there who want to buy your art.
Absolutely. And like I said, I really love having a piece of your art. It is special. And I know that's a piece of your process that I think, I don't know if I read it here in your notes that you sent me beforehand, but sometimes people just think it's like rocks and sticks stuck to paper, right? And that really, it's a lot more than that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I like to think of my art as each individual pebble has personality. I pick each pebble to fit the piece. And it's not just like you kind of like you said, it's not just putting sticks and rocks on paper. It's putting a story, emotion, like feeling into each piece. If I were just putting sticks and rocks on a piece of paper, it would not look the same as my art does. I like
Hmm.
to take the time to make sure that each picture has a story and each picture has that emotion that I want the consumer to look and feel. I want them to be able to feel what I feel when I make it.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you title all of your artwork or do you leave it open ended?
I leave it open ended. Like I have specific like pieces where I'll be like, oh, this is like one of these pieces. It's like this is like a swing piece,
Yes.
or this is like a flower. But
Love it.
I don't name individual pieces because I like to think that that's part of like my buyer's choice. They get to say, oh, this piece means this to me, and this is what
Mm,
I'm going to call this piece.
I love that. What types of stories do you think about when you're creating your artwork?
Um, I guess it depends because if I'm doing like a bird family, that's like kind of I know I've shown this one, but it's
Yeah,
like
we don't
where
mind looking.
um when I do a bird family, I like to think like this is a moment of a like it's a moment in somebody's family. Like
Mm.
what's going on? Maybe there's like that one kid who's like peering over the edge of the stick, like what's down there? Or maybe they're talking. Or I like to try to like take a snapshot of what it looks like in that moment.
I love that. That's really cool. And I know I keep referencing it, but it is so neat to be able to have. I like that there's the different colors and shades of the pebbles, which can represent all kinds of different things within either family dynamics, things like that, for sure. Um, but that people can weave and tell their own stories is really neat. Do you ever do commissioned pieces of artwork where people say, I want something to represent?
I have done several like that. Um, they're a lot of fun to do, and I mean sometimes I'll be like, oh, I gotta do another one because I know like it's not like up to me to decide. It's really up to the whoever's commissioning. Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
commissioning it. I can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've done a lot like that. I've done a lot of my ideas have come from people saying, hey, could you try this? And I've done one specific one that I remember was I did a frog. Someone's like, hey, can you do a frog? And
Fun.
then so it like I was like, okay, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I tried it and it looked like a frog. So I made another one. And then I'll draw inspiration from other people when they're like, could you do this? And then I'll be like, sure. And that's kind of how I get some of my ideas as well.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. Sometimes I know I feel a little bit intimidated when somebody asks for something specific because I'm not 100% sure if I can do it, right? Or if it'll turn out. But I
Yeah.
do love how it stretches me to try something that maybe I wouldn't have thought to try. And I have, like you, Chloe, had a few of them. I'm like, oh gosh, I could make this again. And then
Yeah.
they become sort of part of a collection that people really enjoy. So I love
Yeah.
hearing that. Like, we're not alone in our feelings, right? Especially as creatives. I think running a creative business comes with its own struggles sometimes. I have found in that you're really putting a piece of like your heart and soul out there. And that can feel a little scary, but also pretty rewarding too sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely scary to put any kind of art out there because once again, you don't know how people are gonna react. But that feeling when somebody gets your piece of art and you can see it in their eyes and their body language that they're just like they love this piece or it really like speaks to them, and that's just one of the most rewarding things
It
ever.
is pretty cool. I'm with you for sure. Which I think is such great encouragement, Chloe. A lot of people who tune in with this podcast are either just starting out in their business or maybe they're thinking about starting a business. And so I hope that they're hearing a lot of really great inspiration here of people of all ages can start at any time. And it does have scary things, but there's some really great rewards too. So, Chloe, you're 14 now. You started when you were 10. So you're 4 years in, which is quite a while for a business. As you think about your journey, I'm really curious how like family and friends and teachers and like how have they reacted when you talk about having your business or that you were going to start a business?
I feel like the original like feeling and like that reaction I get is just surprise. They're like, "Oh, you started a business. That's different." But everyone's been really supportive once they like realize that this is something that I'm doing and I'm enjoying it and I'm committed to. I feel like once they see that, they really have just been like the best support group I could ever ask for.
That's awesome. So I have a couple of like technical questions. So 4 years of running a business, that usually comes along with, I mean, there's accounting things you have to keep track of, inventory, setting up a website. When you have a creative business, you don't necessarily get to be just doing creative all the time. Do you have support with that? Have you learned new things with that? Do you just love keeping track of all of the things to keep track of? What does that side of your business look like?
It's definitely not quite as fun as making the art. And I've been really lucky. My mom and my dad have been really supportive in helping me just plan this stuff out and getting all of the stuff in line.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's definitely not the most fun part of a business. Track of, oh, I need 20 more of these by next week. It's definitely not like
Hmm.
the most enjoyable part, but it's just shows that like even the fun things in life are going to have some work that you have to put into it, but in the end the reward is worth it. Like just seeing the people's reaction and like appreciation of the art is definitely worth all that work and all that hard all those hours that you're putting in.
That makes a lot of sense. And it is true, no matter what business you're running, there's always the things you really love bucket, right? And then there's the things where you're like, gosh, I would really love to hire someone else to take care of this.
Yes.
Or if I had someone else who could do this part, right, of the business, I would. What part of the business for you would you love to just hand to someone else right now?
Um, I would say like definitely like all the hearts, like all the like keeping track of stuff and just like
Mm-hmm.
making sure I have enough of this or that. Like it's just all that like you have to like physically go and like be like how many frames do I have? All that just like physical stuff of like counting and like ordering that stuff. It's like
Yeah,
not all like that hard. It just takes time.
for sure. I'm with you for sure. My least favorite thing is definitely, though I like finances in a way, I don't necessarily like tracking it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are days where I'm like, I do not want to go in here and take care of this. For me, I have to put on some really great music, and that kind of inspires me to get moving and doing things like that. How do you work through the things that you don't like to do?
Music is definitely one of the ways that like helps. Just having music or some sort of just like upbeat sound in the background definitely helps. And I always try to like, especially when it's those like not fun things, if you can focus on the things that you do enjoy,
Mm,
then it helps you get through those like not so fun things, like counting or tracking.
yes, for sure. Chloe, I'm curious. So, since a lot of the media that you use, the pebbles, come from a specific location, do you sell any of your artwork in that area through like gift shops or anything like that?
No, um, that is something that would be nice to be able to expand kind of like where I saw stuff, but it's definitely would be a lot more of a commitment to have to ship stuff all the way up to Michigan.
Mm-hmm. For
Um,
sure.
and I do definitely value my like what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, it'll come to me later. Like the craftsmanship that goes into it, and I don't. One of the things that I'm always afraid of when I'm shipping something is that it's gonna get damaged, and I
For
always want
sure.
to make sure that my art is in prime condition for whoever is receiving it.
Yeah. How do you handle that's a piece of running a business, right? And at 14, I just think about it's hard at my age. I am well over 14 now. Um, Sometimes the customer service part can be challenging, right? Making sure that things arrive looking beautiful, or maybe somebody decides they want something different. Have you had anything challenges like that when it comes to just customer service?
I've been really lucky, and I haven't had a whole ton of issues with that kind of stuff. But I'm also really lucky because my mom does do a lot of that shipping and stuff for me, which is nice because it allows me to spend more time on the creative side of the business.
Mm.
So,
It is good to have a shipping department. That's awesome. Is she for hire?
unfortunately, I do not think so.
Don't think so. It sounds like it's busy over there. This is really interesting though, and I just think about lessons that can be learned through our conversation of it is okay to ask for help. It doesn't have to be a family member, but sometimes it can be. My own mom actually has helped within my businesses over the years, and she's helped a lot with bookkeeping things. And
Yeah.
it really is great to be able to outsource some of it so that you can stay in the creative process as well. So I love that you are doing that and not feeling the pressure of like having to figure it all out on your own. Because that I think is often where businesses get sunk, where sometimes it's easy to be like, I have to do everything myself. But if you can ask for help, it goes a long way for sure. Um, hey, I'm wondering too, 4 years at this, you're still a student. How have your friends responded? Do they ever feel inspired to start their own business? Do they have questions? Do they find you don't have time to ever do anything with them? What's that look like being a student and with your friends?
It's been pretty cool because a lot of my friends are also creative people and they have taken inspiration. I know one of my friends has recently been like, I want to do the same thing. And it's been really cool to be able to like help her through that process and say, this is what I've learned. This is how I do things. I know you're going to be like gonna do it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's been really cool to be able to just show somebody kind of like my view on things and be able to just boost somebody else up who wants to do the same thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, I love that. Isn't it neat when people get inspired, like you rub off of other people and you're like, oh, I love this idea, or I could do that too.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
really
been,
neat.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's been really cool because throughout the years, at first I was the like only like young entrepreneur there,
Mm.
at all these craft fairs with all these other adults, and it was a little intimidating. But like I have seen like through the years more and more just children and kids and young adults just like start their own businesses, and it's been really cool just to be able to see like I was there once and know that like it's inspiring other people to do the same thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree. When my parents were both business owners. They had their own businesses, and my grandparents had their own business. So we were always like working in their businesses with them. And so I also started my businesses around your age. And I was the only one, for a long time. But it is neat when you get to see other people and feel inspired and start to realize that like age doesn't always matter as much as we think, right?
Yeah, and it's been really rewarding just to be able to get to know the other people who've been doing it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just because they're older than me doesn't mean I can't be friends with them. Like, it's been really cool just to be able to meet with other people who have the same creative mindset that I have.
That is neat. Has there been anything that has surprised you about being a business owner? Anything that you maybe didn't expect?
Yes, definitely. I've been surprised by a number of things, and it's always something different each time. I guess there's always something that's going to happen at a craft fair or just when you're doing art that you're not going to see coming. And
Mm,
it could be good, it could be bad, but it's just knowing how to handle that kind of thing and knowing that you can get through it and there are people to support you. And I mean, sometimes there are fun surprises too. Like sometimes you aren't going to expect to get to know someone that well when you're doing something. And then suddenly you have another friend that you can rely on.
I love that. Yeah, the surprises do make it like they make the adventure much more fun, for sure. Okay, let's think back prior to 10 years old. Had you ever imagined owning a business before, or what did you kind of dream about pre 10 years old?
Um, I was always dreaming about something different. You know, I was always a creative kid, so I was always doing art, and I was always making a mess. But
In the dining room, the whole dining room.
yes, on the floors everywhere. Um, and it's just, I don't know. I guess I was always just wanted to make sure I was open to whatever opportunity arrived
Mm.
because you never know how something's gonna go. And I mean, yeah, at different points I was like, oh, I could see myself doing this. I guess I never expected to be owning a business for since I was 10 years old to now, but I mean, it's been, I guess that's part of the mindset of just like expecting to like have different doors open and being ready to take that chance.
I love that. And who knows where it will go, right? Journeys can change, and you'll look back another 4 years, 10 years, and be like, wow, I had no idea I'd end up here. I know that has
Yeah.
certainly happened for me in so many ways. Chloe, you talked a little bit about this in some notes that you sent me beforehand, and I am really intrigued to talk a little bit about. You mentioned time management is like
Yeah.
a big thing for you. And so you're juggling school and you do extracurriculars too, things outside of school, a business, you have family things. I imagine you eat sometimes. You have other things going on, right?
Yeah.
How are you doing all of this, friend?
It's definitely time management has definitely been a skill that I've had to learn, and it's been a process of learning because when I first started, you know, I was not as busy as I am now, and it was like,
Sure.
oh, I can do this, you know, now, and it was a lot of like encouragement, like as I started to get busier, you have to do this now because otherwise you're not gonna have time to do this later.
Mm,
But it's been a journey learning just how to manage time because there's only so many hours in a day, and you while yes, you could work all day, you also need to make sure you give yourself breaks so you don't burn yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
And doing it between activities and figuring out when it works for me was definitely a process.
Is there anything that you have found helpful if someone else was like, gosh, I'm really struggling in this area? Is there anything you have found helpful?
Try to look at your calendar and say, okay, I know I have things on like Mondays and Tuesdays. So try to say, okay, I'm going to try to do work on Wednesdays. I'm going to try to do work on Tuesdays. Whatever works. And then what I like to do is I will look at my inventory list, and then I will make one giant long list. It's like I have to make this many of this many of this. And then I'll break that list up into smaller lists. Like, okay, I'm going to try to get 10 bird families done today and then be done. Or I'm going to try to get 3 turtle backgrounds done today. And it's breaking that up definitely helps, and it makes it seem a lot more manageable than that daunting long list that you have.
Yes. When you first started your business, were you really good at that? Like, you sound like you're really breaking it into some systems of, like, we would call that time blocking, right? Where you block the time and then you're kind of batching, working on a batch. Is that something that came naturally for you or something you've learned?
No, that is definitely something that I've had to learn, because I remember when I first started, my mom was always like, you have to do this. Like, you aren't going to have time to do this later. Like, you have to do this. And I was always like, I don't want to do this. I want to go play with my friends. I want to go do anything else like this. I would rather go scrub the toilet right now than do this.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been a skill that I've had to learn, and learn that, yes, I could go play with my friends, but if I don't do this now, I'm not going to have time to do it later, and then I might not have that opportunity later to go and do those fun things because I'm so stressed and busy working on my business.
Mm-hmm. So, Chloe, have you just thought about hiring your friends now? I mean, maybe they could, like, track your inventory or help with some aspects of your business.
I feel like for me personally, I definitely, like, I would say I have a little bit of trust issues sometimes because I'm like, I like know exactly, like, I want this to be done this way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a little hard trusting other people to do that for you. And guess what? It would be nice to do some of that, have somebody else do some of those things. It's also kind of the joy of owning your own business, is that you get to learn to do those things and you get to learn the process. And I felt that, like, if I had somebody else do all the hard work, I wouldn't get quite the reward that I would at the end as I do now.
That does make a lot of sense. And I love that you are thinking through that aspect of your business, especially as, people talk about scale, and you've already done scale, right? Where you started, we're like, oh, easy peasy. I can make so many of these. And now I think you mentioned like 10 of these and 10 of those. And as you're scaling, it is really good to take a step back and look and go, why am I doing this? And what parts of the process are important to me, right? Because it can be easy too to hand things away too quickly. And then you're like, gosh, I missed that part of the process.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like one of the things with my business is I do all the art. Like, I don't feel that somebody else could do my art the same way that I could. And it's definitely just appreciating the amount of time that I put into it and the amount of effort that gets the end result that I do.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, especially with creative things. And I love too how you have leaned into, like you mentioned with your mom, where she can help you out, say with the shipping, things that maybe are less part of the creative process, but still important to you that you have been able to hand off.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not giving her enough credit. She has definitely helped me so much. She helps with a lot of the stuff that isn't just the creative side. She has been some of the inspiration for some of my creative pieces as well. She's definitely one of the people that I owe this business the most to.
That's really cool. Nice job, Mom. So, what would you say, Chloe, if you were speaking directly to, say, a kid or even an adult who has a creative passion, but they're scared to turn it into a business?
I would say that, one, your art is worth it. No matter what anybody else says, your art is beautiful, and it is definitely something that should be cherished and appreciated. and to just make sure throughout this process that it's still something you enjoy. Don't make it too much into a business where you're not enjoying making your art. And that's definitely been something that I've had to learn as well, where it's like I could just make this like and be a robot and make each piece like one after another. But when you spend the time to really appreciate and work and put that effort and love into each piece, it just makes it so much more rewarding, and you can see that like effect that it has on other people when they recognize how much work is put into each piece.
I love that. Chloe, have you ever had moments where you've realized that you needed to slow down or wanted to slow down or step back where it wasn't as fun anymore?
Yes, there's definitely been several times where I've been like, I don't feel like I'm enjoying this quite as much as I used to, and I've needed to like remember that this is something that I'm doing so other people can see my art. It's not something I'm doing so I can, buy that car or whatever. It's something that I'm doing to share my art with other people. And that's definitely something I've had to step back and say, I need to slow down. Like, I need to make sure that this is fun and it's not just work.
So important for people to hear. Again, whether you're in a creative business or not, but when it starts to become, I'll use the word drudgery, right? Where you're just like, oh my, there's certainly seasons, but it can be an indicator of, hey, it's time to step back and just reevaluate a little. So thank you so much for that reminder. Hey, you mentioned a car. Is that what you're saving your funds up for? I know we said before we got on here, your permit coming soon. Do you have some financial goals with your business, or are you mostly just focused on the creative side right now?
I try to focus more on the creative side, but I mean, it'd definitely be nice to be able to get that nice car.
Yeah.
But I try to stay focused on that reward of just seeing other people appreciate my art, because that is really, I feel like, one of the most important things.
I love that. Where do you see Chloe's Crafts in the next few years? And am I saying your business name correct? Is it Chloe's Crafts?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to continue this through high school, and I'd like to still be able to share my art with the world. But I do know that things are going to get busier, and I could see me taking a break and letting myself be able to do stuff in high school and giving myself more time. But I could also see still doing this through high school. I guess it just depends on how much time. How much time can I squeeze out of one day and still be able to wake up the next day?
Yes.
All over again.
Also trying to figure that over here, Chloe. So as you figure out how to get more time, just send me an email. We'd all like to know, because that's definitely something I think we all are trying to figure out. And I love that you're being open to just seeing where things go and where the business takes you. That is something too. I've, talked with lots of entrepreneurs that we work with, and sometimes there are businesses they decide they're not going to continue with, or they're going to change it quite a bit, or maybe it's just not working out. And that can feel like a lot of emotions, but it's also important to be open to it, because that journey can take you in a lot of places.
Yeah,
That's really neat.
change is hard, but it's something that happens with life. So don't be afraid to step in and have that change happen, because it could lead to opportunities that you never knew existed.
That's right. Very wise. Very wise. You never know where, if you're picking up pebbles on Lake Michigan, where it's going to take you, right?
Definitely.
So I have a couple of, these are just kind of quick, fun questions for you as we're wrapping up, okay? And they're just, we call them rapid fire questions, just to be fun and get some spontaneous answers. So Chloe, I'm curious, what is, do you think, the biggest misconception about owning a business?
That it's going to be all fun. Or I guess you're going to have time to do like all the things you still want to do. You have to make sure that yes, it is fun, but it's not all going to be fun. There's going to be a little bit of work that has to go into it, but it can still be fun, but you have to make sure that you do the work as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's so important to think about, Chloe, of, do I want this to be just a hobby, which is totally fine, or do I want my creative thing to be a business? And either way is okay. But yeah, sometimes thinking business is going to be all fun, for sure. I'm with you there. Chloe, what's your favorite, like, snack? If you were, you mentioned snacks, taking snacks to your shows. So like, what's your go-to show snacks?
I will bring like a tray of hummus, and then I will have like carrots or celery, and I will just eat it with hummus.
Love it. That is a really good snack. I like that too. And pita bread. I'll enjoy some good pita bread. Mm-hmm. Chloe, you had mentioned too that sometimes like music maybe keeps you motivated. Are there certain types of music or artists or books or podcasts? Are there things that you really feel inspired by right now?
Um, I like to try to listen to a lot of just upbeat music. I'm also like a theater person, so I will like
Ooh,
play a Broadway musical track in the background.
yes.
So just try to keep it upbeat and fun.
So I could just like imagine you, if you're into Broadway, you've taken over the entire dining room. Your things are inventoried everywhere. You're blaring Broadway. So do you sing as well?
Yes, I have like that does happen, and
Yeah.
I have been like told to turn my music down because it's too loud for everybody else.
But when you get that car and you've got a good stereo, then you can really turn it up, just you, and driving
Yes,
safely, of course,
yes.
all of those things. Chloe, what do you feel really excited about with just the future?
I'm just excited to see where this takes me and what opportunities I'm going to be able to have. I'm just excited just to go out and see the world, I guess, and all the wonderful things and I guess not so wonderful things that are out there.
Yes, I love it. That's awesome. Chloe, is there something that people often get wrong about you? Something they may not know about you?
I have gotten several times that people will think I'm older than I am. Like, I always remember I'll be at a craft fair and they're like, "Oh, you're like 16, right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm like 14. I'm not that old." Like,
Yeah.
um, and that's always a little weird to hear because I'm like, I don't think I look that old. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah.
I do think people are probably often surprised at what you are accomplishing at your age. Not because people your age can't, but they don't always see it.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's not something that you see every day, which makes, I guess, my business that just a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. For sure. They also might be like, how did you get here? Right?
Yes.
So once you get your vehicle, though, I hope that you're thinking about like a moving van or something that you can put your show things in. Very practical car, right?
Yeah, definitely. I guess it all depends on what's available at the time, but
Mm-hmm. We often find with our shows that like the most time is in loading all of the grates and tables and artwork and totes and things, right? To be able to get it there. The car's
that
never big enough.
yes, and it's definitely you have to play Tetris with the car, so everything fits, and it's
Yes,
always that game of like, how many boxes can I fit in the car? Can
that's
I fit
right.
that one more box, or am I gonna have to leave this?
Yeah. Or is
And
it on my lap?
yes, that has happened where I've like literally just had stuff on my lap and at my feet, and the rest of the car behind me is full.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely takes time, but once you know how to get everything in the first time, it gets a little easier.
It does, right? You can start to go, okay, I know how this is going to go. Although, Chloe, I still, every time at the end of like a craft show, I wish that there was a cleanup crew.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be
Oh,
great?
yeah, it definitely, it's like putting everything out and taking everything like back definitely does take a decent amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But also just making sure that like you didn't lose anything that, yeah.
Yes. And my least favorite part of all of that is inventory since I do greeting cards. So I have to go back through and count them all. I'm still trying to figure out a good system. I don't have a fabulous system figured out. So I have to count them every time.
And you have to make sure that you remember where you put that inventory sheet. 'Cause we do our inventory on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And my cat does tend to eat stuff that paper that gets left out, so you have to make sure that it's somewhere that my cat won't get to it.
Oh
But
my.
yeah,
So you're like, so you don't have the problem of the dog ate my homework, like everyone says. You're like, the cat ate my inventory. Got
yeah.
it.
Like, literally, she will eat the corners.
Oh my. So for those who
It,
can't see, Chloe just held up an inventory sheet and it has chew marks all over it. So you're
yeah,
not kidding.
I'm not kidding when I say my cat will literally eat the inventory sheet.
Oh my word. Oh man, there's always some challenge, right? You never know exactly what it'll be, whether it's the cat. Chloe, what do you think business owners can do that makes the world a better place?
They can just share their creativity and their inner feelings with the world through their art. And just being able to share all those just like good things that they can do definitely like can help just other people feel the same way. And it can be inspiring. It can make somebody feel a certain way. I know there've been a couple of times where someone has gotten really emotional when they've received a piece because it's just
Mm,
touched their heart. And that's always something that I look forward to seeing. Like just knowing that I can make somebody feel something because I spent the time to share my art with the world.
that is really neat. And I'm so thrilled that you're having that experience. That's so awesome. And I love the encouragement to others that they can do the same. And I think it kind of comes full circle, right? Where we started of everyone does have very special gifts they can share. And it doesn't mean you have to start a business to share those special
Yeah,
gifts. There's so many ways, but having a business is a really neat way to be able to do that. And I love that.
it's definitely
Chloe,
just. Oh,
oh, go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah, we like to talk over each other. We're chatty. We're chatty. Introverts can be chatty when it's one on one.
Yeah, it's definitely just knowing how to share your art with other people. And it's not going to be the same for everyone. Like, my art is something that I take to crafters, but other people sell stuff online. And it's just being able to share it, and it's going to be different for everyone.
I agree. That's good perspective for sure. It doesn't have to look the same. Speaking of, where can people find and support Chloe's crafts? Where will you be soon? And
Okay, so I have two events coming up soon. One at Gretna East. It's on March 29th from 9 to 3. And
awesome.
then one at Elkhorn High, which is April 5th, from this like 9 to 3 as well. And then you can also find me on my website, chloescraft.bigcartel.com. I also have, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and I think that's it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but
That's perfect. Good. Chloe, we'll make sure we'll put show notes in here with the podcast and on YouTube. So we'll make sure there's links to everything you mentioned. If you think of another one, we'll add it in there. So it's all good if we missed
you know,
anything, it'll be in there. And so I just want to clarify too, can people order through your website or contact you if they
yes,
want to have shipped? Because some people do listen outside of the local area.
yes, we do ship. We have shipped stuff out of state before as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can contact us through our website, and that you can also get custom orders through there too as well. So.
Perfect. That's awesome. And we know that it is shipped with care and love by Chloe's mom. She's head of shipping department, which is awesome. Well, this has been really awesome. Chloe, are there any final words that you feel like you want to share about you or your business or to anyone listening at all?
Just have fun and just enjoy your art and make sure other people can see how much you enjoy it.
I love that. Thanks so much, Chloe. This is like a really awesome, and I know I feel inspired. I'm already thinking about different things within my own creative side of the business and for my husband. So I really appreciate you sharing your encouragement because it does make a difference to be able to talk to people who are in the middle of it, doing it and figuring it out, to be able to have that inspiration and have that community. So thank you so much, Chloe.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, what an amazing conversation with Chloe. She is so delightful, don't you think? I loved this episode. I love that we can interview entrepreneurs of all ages and stages and just remember that really at the end of the day, we are not alone on an island. And that's really what we're about here at Tandem Works is encouraging, uplifting, and providing tools to business owners just like you who are just figuring this all out. And I love that Chloe is able to inspire at her young age. But again, it doesn't matter your age. If you are looking to get something started, I just encourage you to give it a try and do that. And maybe you're in the middle of it and you're trying to just figure things out and you just need a sounding board. That's what we here at Tandem Works are for, is to offer one-on-one coaching and mentoring, workshops, as well as marketing and communication roadmaps. So if you're feeling like you just need a little inspiration, maybe need to get unstuck or just get started, we'd love to chat with you. Look for all of the contact information in the show notes.